everyone. I'm Linda Nickell, and welcome to the Happiness Hour. Every week, photographers meet here to connect, inspire, and create. And you can find the schedule on my website at lindanickell.com/happiness hour. And while you're there, please consider signing up for our monthly newsletter. Tonight's guest is Lauri Novak. Lauri is a fine art photographer, mentor, and author whose lens captures the beauty in architecture, nature, and travel. Lauri's images are far more than pictures. They are journeys. Her acclaimed Polar Opposites project is a breathtaking visual exploration of Earth's poles, pairing stunning scenes from the Arctic and Antarctic. But beyond the vast and remote, Lauri finds magic in the everyday too. Whether guiding photographers through her lens in private mentorships, walking the architecture-lined streets she loves, or inviting us into her visual stories, her work reminds us to see, to notice, feel, and celebrate what's around us, and to find joy in seeing more clearly. You can connect with her through her link tree at Lauri Novak Photography, and you'll find her on Instagram at Lauri Novak Photo, and I'll link those in the show notes. But in tonight's presentation, Seeing Art in Architecture, Lauri will help you discover the artistry hidden within buildings and structures, and she'll show you how to see them through a creative lens, using composition, shapes, patterns, and perspective to transform ordinary spaces into extraordinary images. Welcome to the Happiness Hour, Lauri.
Thanks so much. I'm excited to be here. I appreciate you asking me to do this. I have to say I'm getting ready to share my screen here just so you can see what's going on there.
Hang on one second. Before you really get into that, we're going to give credit where credit's due. I typically try to remember how I find a speaker and how I recruit them into my little web of come speak to a group of strangers you don't know. But Lauri, this is really good for you. But on occasion, I'll get into conversations with people and just say, hey, what do you like to shoot? Who would you like to learn from? Who have you learned from, or who do you know that might do a presentation? And your name was served up to me by the lovely Kathleen Kent. And so I give her credit for introducing me to your work. And no pressure, but don't screw this up for Kathleen.
No. Well, right. Kathleen knows me well enough to know that I'll probably screw it up, so it's okay.
That's okay. That's fine. All right. With that, you can have your screen.
I'm just going to start here by explaining a little bit who I am. I've been a photographer for a very long time. We talk about being friends with people for years. I've had a camera for 50 some years, basically, in some form or another. I grew up with a camera. I learned on film. I did the yearbook photography thing and the high school newspaper photography thing. And that's when I realized that people wasn't my thing. So I kind of learned as I went along. I had a friend in fourth grade whose dad was a photographer, and they had a darkroom in their basement. So even at like in our junior high years, we got to play in the darkroom, which was kind of cool. And then in high school, a friend of mine had a darkroom set up in one of their bathrooms in the basement or something, and we used to mess around too. So again, it's kind of always been part of my life. My mom was the photo taker, documented all our travels and trips and weekends and birthdays and all that. So it's just been always around for me. I can't imagine my life without it. I can't imagine not doing it. It's just part of who I am. I'm a creative. I've been creative in other ways. I took art classes in high school. Those are the things that you have to practice, though, just like photography, because I cannot draw anymore like I could used to. I'm a traveler. I love to travel. I take every opportunity that I can to go places. When I was on my own, I used to go by myself everywhere, and I am still to this day, I'm very grateful that I am the personality that allowed myself to do those things. I would get lost in places I couldn't speak the language, and I managed learning experiences, and you see things that you don't normally get to see when you do that way. I've been an educator. I've written for a online photography education platform for about 6 years, 7 years. I don't write for them anymore. I publish some of that stuff on Medium, on my own blog. I'm very curious by nature. I always say that I'm 12 in my head, and I am curious like a child when I want to know how things work and why things work, and that's how my mind works. Um, Wanderer, I've been called inspiring. I don't do that on purpose. Like, I don't know sometimes what that means and how I am inspiring to people. I think that part of it is just because I'm unapologetically myself. Um, and what you see is what you get with me. So, um, I'm a unique perspective on life, which I think informs my photography based on experiences, life, how I grew up, where I grew up, my parents, I'm very encouraging. I love to help other people. Something else I kind of can't like help not doing, like I fell into helping other people because people were like, you should do this and you should be a mentor. And so I did that for a while, and I've kind of started veering away from that a little bit. I'll always help people. I just don't formally do it too much anymore. I'm observant to a fault. Make my husband crazy with stuff that I see, like little drops of water on every sink in the house and stuff like that. But again, that's part of what informs my photography is because I'm uber aware of things, sounds, noises, things that I see on the floor, on the counter, outside. The little ant movement in the grass catches my eye. So those are the kind of things that make me the photographer that I am. And I'm very easygoing and approachable. So again, if any questions, even after this, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to answer. Um, I have a couple of quotes in my presentation because, quotes always make things kind of stick a little bit. But everybody sees, I've trained myself to notice what I see is a Sherlock Holmes quote from one of the books. It's something that I believe some people are innately creative. Some people and see the world in a different way than everybody else. But I believe that you can train yourself to notice more, to pay more attention, to be more aware of your surroundings. I think that you can work at it. It's like anything. If you want to learn to paint, you have to work at it. If you want to learn to play music, you have to work at it. And photography is no different. Just because you can pick up something and click it doesn't mean that you don't have to work at it. It's just a different tool. I'm going to get this stuff out of the way because I hate talking about gear. I'm not a gearhead. I have 12-year-old cameras. Uh, I just bought a new, quote unquote, new used EF 1740 lens for my Canon because my original one broke. The Tamron 100 to 400 I've had for since 2019. And I have a Canon 100 millimeter that I use very rarely. I had a 50 millimeter. I sold it because I never used it, despite what everybody says that you should have one in your bag. Not everybody does the same thing, so you don't all have to have what they say. I'm a Lightroom Classic person. Photoshop, very little. I've gotten to the point where I use it maybe to remove things that are a little too cumbersome for Lightroom to handle. Lightroom's getting better at that. So I don't do composites. I don't do stuff like that. So Photoshop is kind of something that I just don't use very much. Luminar Neo, I use on and off. I would like to get into it further and learn more, but I'm so dependent on my database of images in my, management of my catalogs that I'm afraid to leave Lightroom because of that. because I could just see it being like this huge mess. I love the Nick collection from DxO. The Silver Effects is an amazing black and white tool to use for that. And when I'm feeling really artsy and feel like playing around with stuff, Topaz Texture Effects, which is ancient. They don't make it anymore. They don't sell it anymore. I still have it, still works for now, but I keep using it from time to time just to mess around with. So that's the last gear talk. You might hear me bring up lens, but that's different. So, one of my favorite quotes is by Degas, a dancer. I danced for quite a few years of my life, another creative side of my personality. That art is not what you see, but what you make others see. Because we all see something different. So as photographers, we're trying to show people what our view is or what we see, or trying to make them see something that um, they might walk by every day, or the beauty in stuff that people don't tend to take a second look at. There's a lot of photographers out there who make ordinary things beautiful, garbage on the street. I know a guy who takes photos of bottle caps when he finds them. It's a cool little project. Um, just something every day. So that brings me to architecture. I grew up outside of Chicago, which is an architecturally rich city, home of the skyscraper and Louis Sullivan and Daniel Burnham and Frank Lloyd Wright. The list goes on of the famous architects that have contributed to the architecture in the United States in the Chicago area. Um, it's all around us. Art is all around us. If walking down the street, you see, I know I'm not the only one who does this, right? There's leaves that look like hearts, or you find hearts shaped rocks. There's art everywhere. It's taking the time to pay attention and notice it, being aware that you are seeing it and not just walking over the top of it. And that kind of goes back to myself and being uber aware of things. It's a blessing and a curse, when somebody's clicking their pen 5 stalls over in the library, it makes me insane. But it's part of noticing everything. Um, this image was taken on the roof of a university building in Budapest, and it just made sense to me because the three trees, like the nature and then the lines of the architecture, man-made and nature, made for an interesting kind of image to me. Um, and it can be anything. This is from the Milwaukee Art Museum. It's very, if you've seen the Milwaukee Art Museum, it's a Santiago Calatrava building, and it's got these wings that go up. Very cool. But there's also these industrial pieces to it, which, maybe they're not as interesting or as beautiful, but if you compose it or you line things up correct, the way that it looks nice, it can still be art. And it can still take something that's wires and bolts and make it look artistic. Um, I'm just checking notes here every so often because I don't want to miss stuff. um, but it's also knowing where you are, knowing and doing some research. If you come to Chicago and you want to go see certain buildings, or if you go to anywhere, no matter where you're traveling, it helps to know a little bit of backstory. This is called the People's Gas Pavilion in Lincoln Park in north of Chicago, and the architect is Jeannie Gang. She is one of the first female architects who had a skyscraper in Chicago. And I've got actually more images of hers in later in the presentation. This is a pavilion. It's like a sculpture kind of, or it's an art piece really, but it's a pavilion. There's weddings there and stuff all the time. But knowing that her explanation behind this um, was that the shapes mimic the waves from Lake Michigan, which you can see from here. Knowing that going in before you go to photograph it can help you compose shots that showcase that. So doing a little research when you're looking at going someplace in particular or certain buildings or the architect and knowing the stories behind why and how they built the building can help. Um, this is a Frank Lloyd Wright parking garage ramp in Milwaukee. Is it anything stunning? The building is really cool, but this is still something that you can create and make a minimal piece of art out of. Um, it is maybe a little unusual, perhaps. I don't know. Um, but for minimalistic architecture, people tend to like it, the curve and how it goes around. Um, and people who know I never can pronounce this, the building on the one of the lakes up in Madison, Milwaukee, Madison, sorry. Um, and know that it's a Frank Lloyd Wright designed building. But it's just seeing what's there. It's seeing beyond the fact that it's a parking garage ramp. It's looking beyond the function of what you're looking at to find what else it could be. This is something I tell people when I'm helping people out, and then when I give out assignments or whatever, and I have in the past, is when you go somewhere, put your camera down. And people always cringe when I say that. Well, and I'm like, no, if you're traveling, especially, we get all caught up in like, oh my God, and you're trying to catch everything, but you can't catch everything. Take the tourist shots, right? You're traveling, you don't get to come back here again. Take those shots, get them out of your system, and then walk around and see what catches your eye. Look for the particular like shapes and where the light is hitting and what's going on in the details of the building. Pay closer attention instead of just being like, oh my God, I'm at the Griffith Observatory. I got to do this and this and this. You got to slow down. Um, when I was here, we had a half an hour. I I believe this is a couple of 3 or 5 pano shot because I wanted the whole building. And then I wandered. I'm like, okay, the light is on this side of the building, on the left side of the building. The other side is in the shadow. So I'm going to go this way, right? I don't have much time. So I'm going to go over here because the light will probably be better over here to get shadows or contrasts. But I'm paying attention to this when I'm walking around, not looking through my viewfinder. So I'm aware of where the light is and what's possibly going to work better for me in that situation. Um, and then, look at what's going on. It was bright blue skies. What happens? What can you do? Well, because I walked around, I found these interesting kind of inlet areas, and the details on this building were kind of cool. Making it a high contrast black and white took out the blue sky problem. It emphasized the details of the building, which again, it's something that people may not notice. Um, but it's part of the architecture and it makes it beautiful. And this would be the side, like I said, I went to the side of the sun. If I had gone on the shadowed side, this wouldn't have worked. It would have worked in a different way, maybe because of the shape of the staircases. But it works better because the sun is bright. It's easy to make it a high contrast black and white piece, and that showcases the curves and the lines of the building. It shows off the architecture in that way. So because I took the time to walk around first, I could pick out things that I wanted to go back. And again, like I said, we were there for a half an hour. So I was like, this. I wasn't messing around. I knew what I saw that caught my eye. I knew the shapes that I saw and where the light was. And I went right for those places after I did my little survey of the area. Um, Something else that I like to talk about is, um, and I know photographers probably too much talk about telling stories with our images, which is what we do, and that's what it's about. Um, Architecture is no different. There's a story to tell. There's a story of the building. There's a story of the location, of the architect, of the function of the building, maybe. So I always try depending on like obviously Chicago buildings I know. So if I go in and want to shoot only details, that's what I do. And I do a lot of that. But if you're on a trip and you want to tell a story of a really cool building you saw, I would suggest taking a picture, the big picture, right? Take as much of the building as you can. There's still more to this building. And again, this is the same architect, Jeannie Gang, who created that pavilion that we saw earlier. There's more below this. It's difficult to be in a place where you can shoot the whole entire building here. Um, you can if you're on the river, I think, but because this building's kind of right on the river. So, but shoot the whole thing. It gives you context. It tells you more what the shapes of the buildings are, what's surrounding the area. Um, this is on the Chicago River. This curved building is awesome to shoot detail shots and reflection shots close up. But you can do that in a lot of glass buildings and you could do it anywhere. I have glass building reflections in Austin, actually, but if you don't know the buildings in Austin, you don't know where it is. It could be anywhere. Um, so if you're trying to tell a story, so if I want to come back and write a blog post or put up a photo essay of traveling or trips, you want your viewers to see everything. You want them to show, here's where I was, here's Chicago, here's the river, and then here's some more of what it looks like in pieces. This building's really cool. Look at these shapes that it makes, or look at these shadows, or look at the reflections on this building. So you're able to bring in pieces to tell all parts of the story, if that's what you want to do. Um, this is the Olympic Stadium in Munich, and this is like a 10 image pano. There's no way you can shoot this thing. It is huge. I wanted to be able to show how massive it was. I was blown away. I had no idea it was that big. It was crazy. And again, we were on we were on a bus tour. We were like limited time, So I'm like, you're, running around trying to get everything, but you can't. But I definitely knew I wanted to tell the whole story. This place is crazy. Look how big it is. I knew I couldn't do that with just my 17 millimeter wide angle. It's not wide enough. So I do vertical panos quite often. I typically don't use a tripod, especially if I'm traveling. And for architecture, depending on what you do, um, tripods, it depends. If you're doing like real estate, taking architectural stuff that way, then you probably do, and then you're probably going to use tilt shift lenses, so everything's straight. I straighten pretty much everything after the fact. I mean, I get as much in camera as I can, but you can't help, keystoning and all that. So again, the whole story. This is then I zoom in either with my lens or my feet. This is the same first building by Jeannie Gang on the left. And the building with the curved white balconies is another of her buildings in Chicago. And there's certain areas of the city where you can get them, as you can see, together. They're not next to each other. It's the zoom lens kind of compressing them to make them look like they're next to each other. And it's a cool thing because if you know this ahead of time, you know that both of those buildings are her creations. She's the architect for both of those buildings. And to see them together means something, to people who care about the architecture. Um, but you just zoom in a little bit or, tell the middle part of the story. What's not quite detailed, but just showing a little bit closer in views of what's there. This is in Grasse, I think, France. Again, it's when you're on a holiday, it's amazing. I don't know if I'll ever be back there again. I'm taking photos of everything. But at some point you're like, okay, let's stop, hold on, slow down, and let's get some things that tell the story of more of the character and the textures and what it feels like there. So you can see from this what the colors are more vividly and like in your face, kind of, because you're right there. And you're not shooting the whole thing, and you kind of, sometimes when you do that, you lose parts of the story. You lose the details. You lose the character and the texture and the grunge feeling that you get in a scene like that. So you just, bring it in a little bit. This is the Olympic Stadium. This are the broadcast. I believe that's what they were, the broadcast booths or areas. And it's just another area of the stadium to show people what's there, what it looks like. This is where the broadcasters were. Um, and you're just kind of chunking it down a little bit into a little bit smaller story, part of the big story. And then I go close. This is what I tend to do a lot of. I like the details because they become abstract. Uh, this is the same building from the first tall when I showed the big picture, and I'll show them all together in a second. Um, but this to me is more about the shapes and the color differences and how she used the way she designed this to get a feeling of motion and movement. Again, with the waves, the lake, it's on the river, it's not that far from the lake, and to make it be more water-like. And you get a better feeling of that when you zoom in on it because the shapes are more pronounced. This is something that is on Michigan Avenue in Chicago, and I'm pretty sure that thousands of people every day walk right by it. And I'm like, this is Louis Sullivan, and his work is incredibly detailed. It's absolutely gorgeous, and it's just there. But you have to either know it's there or you have to pay attention to see that. But it's like just a storefront now. I mean, I don't know that the inside has even got any of his work in it anymore. But it's just one of those things. Again, either take a tour to learn about these things or read up on them. This I was made aware of because of a tour I went on. And I'm going to stand right in front of it and take it close because it makes a better image. With the next door building is the black strip and his is the white details. Instead of adding in whatever the window that was here and whatever that takes away from the design. This is a zoomed in picture at the Olympic Stadium. This is, again, part of things how I see things. Um, all I could see were these shapes and the different shades of green. And I tilted my camera a little bit so that it wasn't just straight, make it a little different. I took a few, I didn't take hundreds, but I took a few to change things up. Um, and this photo for whatever reason like makes people go, "Oh my God." And I'm like, I just was like, it's Olympic Stadium seating. Like what? You know, but it was an intriguing, again, it's the shape of the chairs, the shapes they make against each other, the whole white contrast the top with the light hitting the top of the chairs, and the different shades of green. And it's just another piece of the story of that huge stadium. So these are the big picture mid-range details, just so you could see each um, building as I took it or as I saw it, and different ways you can approach a building. You don't have to do all of one or none of them or one of them or always shoot details or always shoot mid, whatever catches your eye would be how you would want to do that. And there's the three for the Olympic Stadium. And again, a lot of how and what we shoot and why we shoot depends on what we're doing with the images. If I'm going to write up my travel blog, then I want to show people this. I don't want to show just the details. They'll be like, what is that? You want to talk about your trip. You want them to see what you saw. You may not even include the detail shot. I do because people expect that from me. I think I expect it from me. Um, so that's the examples of trying to tell the whole story in a few images. Um, Angles and perspectives. Perspective is a huge thing for me. I work really hard when I take images to find a different way to shoot something, whether it's a leaf on the ground or a building or not birds, sorry. Um, Depending on what it is, I'm going to try really to do something different. This particular image is, if you're familiar with the corn cob buildings in Chicago, Marina Towers. I was fortunate enough to be able to take a group up in one of the apartments there, and I held my camera straight out and down and look down. I don't know what I was seeing because I have an old camera. It doesn't have an articulating screen. So I shoot blind a lot. Faith. I have faith in what I'm feeling. Um, but it's a unique perspective that you don't get to see. And that makes so you see photos of the corn cob buildings, the Marina Towers, quite often. It's a popular place to take photos. But you always see the same thing, the two towers on the river, or sometimes you see the balconies. This made something different. Don't be afraid to try things. This is another thing I do a lot. I shoot straight up. Either I put my camera straight up, looking straight up on the building or whatever surface it is, or I put it flat on the ground, um, or on all sorts of things. I put my camera when I see something that might, I have a picture that I took of a reflection on top of a garbage can. People don't know what it is because it's blurred out and there's lights and whatever, but it made an interesting image. This is looking straight up at the modern wing of the Art Institute in Chicago. And there's the reflections in the window. It just makes it a little bit different. And another straight, I have a lot of straight up images, but this is the uh, museum at the University of Minnesota, Frank Gehry building. He's another architect who is his work is very interesting to create images of because you can see it's very interesting work. It's steel, stainless, I think. It's very reflective. He has lots of lines and curves, and it's a lot of fun and challenging sometimes to photograph his work. But I was trying to do a unique perspective of this building. I always think, what can I do that somebody hasn't done before? Um, I was just gonna look and you'll interrupt, right, with questions. Yeah, okay. So this is at the Getty Museum in Los Angeles. And again, we were there for a half an hour, which is not even close to long enough to be there. Um, so I was just, I knew there were a couple places because I looked ahead of time. I looked online. I'm like, okay, I know I want to shoot that. I know this building I want to go to. The rest of it, I was like, plus it was 100 degrees. And I was like, okay, I'm done. Um, I was just kind of walking around the back area and whatever. And I looked up and this is what I saw. And it was like, what is this? I don't even know looking at it. I just knew that the sun, it was probably around almost noon. And I just knew I had to put the sun behind there, or I could not have taken the shot. Um, and it's just like an Escher drawing because you don't really know which way's up. It could kind of possibly be a reflection. It might not be. It could look like I totally rotated the image 180 degrees and that's actually a floor or something. I don't know. These are the kind of things that I really look for when I'm somewhere. Um, Again, I have pictures of the Getty Museum. It's a gorgeous building. The whole thing, I have little bits and pieces of stuff, but this is the kind of stuff that it doesn't matter where it is. Like nobody could probably guess that's where it is unless they recognize the stone, you know. Um, but it makes for a really interesting and unique image that isn't something you typically see. This is another example of angles and perspectives. Union Station in Chicago. Typically, you see straight on front with the big columns out front. It's beautiful. It's an old, beautiful building. This particular day, I went downtown with a friend of mine, and I hate carrying extra stuff. So a lot of times when I go into the city, I take my camera and a lens, no bag, no nothing. I might put an extra card or two in my pocket, but that's it. So this particular time, our we went to Union Station and we weren't going anywhere else. We took a walking tour in Union Station, which was really cool. Got to go in places I'd never been in before, but I only took my 100 millimeter lens. That was really hard. Like this shot, I mean, I'm used to zooming with my 100 to 400 to get what I see. You know, I might see the little corner area up there with the dark, the old building with the new blue-green glass behind it. Like I might zoom into that little corner up there. So I'm like, it took me, I don't even know if I even stopped my 100 millimeter lens. Like, oh, it doesn't zoom. So that forced me to look for compositions that worked with it. And it forced me to make different compositions than I would tend to make. So this, for example, is something that I wouldn't have shot if I had my 100 to 400 on because I would have gone past it or out further. Um, it just makes you, take one lens, and most of everything that I'm talking about works for pretty much any kind of photography. Um, I also shoot a lot of automotive car shows and things, and I use all these same principles, same ideas for that as well. Um, but the 100 millimeter lens made me take different photos when I did that, different angles. Again, looking straight up, this is the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin. Um, how many people, I wonder, walk under there? It's a beautiful monument. Most people are focused on the four horses on top and the whole monument, which is beautiful. I have a great sunrise photo of it, really nice. But how many people walk under there and don't look up and look at that amazing detail under there? It's crazy. Like, what are those symbols? What are the letters for? All of that. And how many people go there and don't even know that that's there? Plus the perspective. So this was using a wide angle lens and looking straight up. And it makes it just kind of a weird perspective with the columns, coming in and taking you to see those details.
Lauri,
Yep.
before you go further, um, uh, Rebecca slipped in a question I might have
Yeah.
missed. I didn't want to interrupt. She said, this is on the Escher-esque image.
Yeah.
She says, if it was in black and white, would that enhance the Escherness? What do you
It
think?
might. It might. I don't think I ever tried it with black and white. I could. I honestly, because of the light
Yeah.
and the blue and the yellowish, kind of color complement there is why I left it that way. Um, Black and white might flatten it a little bit.
Okay. She was just curious.
I no, I will try. If I converted this to black and white, I would increase the texture in it,
Mhm.
definitely. So I'll
Okay.
try it. I'll have to try it though and see. It might. Cool. Because his work is black and white, isn't it? Mostly drawings.
Yeah. Yeah.
So another tool, technique, whatever you want to call it, that I use, I'm obsessed with actually, is reflections. Reflections are a really great way to add depth, texture, and a uniqueness or another interesting element to your architecture photos. Of course, there's windows, obviously, are a big one. I do a lot of, in most cities or whatever, there's big, huge windows, and I put my camera right up against the window and take the reflection. So I get the building and people walking down the sidewalk or cars or whatever's in the area. Or I don't oh, I don't have that on my phone anymore. I used to have a screensaver that was building reflections. Um, this happens to be the Rookery building in Chicago, which if you ever go on the tour there because it's amazing. And if you've ever seen the spiral staircase that everybody takes pictures of in Chicago, it's in this building. And the only way you can go up it to take pictures is during a tour. So, but this is a marble column outside. Again, I put my camera on the column and pointed it up. Um, it's reflecting the two buildings behind me. So I would be facing the column. Those two white buildings that are at the top of the photo are the ones reflected in the column. And again, it adds depth It adds texture and color because of the marble. It just makes it different. It's a unique way of seeing a building that everybody's seen 100 times or more. And it's just something that I don't think people always tend to think about. The other thing is to say what if a lot. I ask the question what if all the time. What happens if I do that? Or press this button or turn this or move my camera or, you know, play. Play is a big thing, a big part of how I operate. I am not a technical person. I know what I know. I know what I need to know to get what I want.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm not married to like, oh my God, this has to be f2.8 and this has to be ISO 100 and this has to be the ISO 100. That's like taking me a long time to go away from, but um I'm not married to any of that, which gives me the freedom to try things. It's digital. We don't care, right? It doesn't cost us any money to develop it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And if it does, you might create the best picture you've ever created that's going to be so unique that it's like nothing anybody's ever seen before, just because you tried it. Again, different architecture. This is the Chicago River in winter. Those are sheets of ice that are breaking up, and those are buildings reflected in the river in between the ice. Um, I'm a winter person. I love ice. I'm fascinated by ice. Um, to me, this was far more interesting than the big scene. I was with about 6 or 7 other photographers. We're standing on the edge, maybe on a bridge or along the river walk. And, everybody's taking all the nice build, and it's beautiful. The Chicago River Walk's beautiful. The buildings are beautiful. I love it. But I don't need this picture. This picture of all of this does nothing for me personally. So I'm the only one on that day in that group that took pictures of the ice on the water. But it's still architecture. It's also nature's architecture. I mean, nature is the ultimate architect, right? Most architects get their inspiration from nature. The way the sheets of ice are, they're geometric patterns, shapes, and the reflections between. It just makes it a different way to shoot architecture. Um, More reflections. This is a building actually that reflects kind of on itself, like a corner. The shape of the building looks like a waterfall, and the way that the reflections are distorted reminded me kind of water. So it's again, this is paying attention to what's around you and what you see in the building instead of looking at the building, right? Ooh, this is a cool building. You got to look further and look past the building, look at the windows or look at what the reflections look like in the windows. Same concept. It's reflections of a building that was I was facing that way. The kind of Y structures on the bottom that kind of go up was behind me across on the other side. And there's 3 flags in there that are hidden that people don't tend to notice. There's 3 flagpoles that you kind of see and then you lose them. And this one, I don't know, this one doesn't do a whole lot for me. I don't for whatever reason, but it's just to show you another way of seeing beyond what's there. Clouds is always good, reflections in buildings, kind of blurring the line between what's there and what isn't there, between the building and the clouds, the soft and the hard. Those kind of contrasts also can be used when shooting architecture. And I like to play in puddles a lot. And this is another case where I put my camera on the ground. I don't have an articulating screen. I don't get on the ground too much anymore because I don't get up very gracefully anymore. So mostly I don't do it. So I put my camera on the ground and I shoot. Um, Again, I do this a lot, so I've gotten a pretty good feel for what I'm getting. I look at, I shoot, I look at the screen, I make adjustments. But a lot of times it's blind shooting, which I guess I'm just lucky. I don't know. Um, but it's that mentality. If I don't try it, how do I know? It could work out, it might not. And if it doesn't, I'll just delete it. But it's another cool way to reflect architecture in puddles. Um, Any shiny surface works. The human element, I don't put a lot of people in my photos unless it makes sense to me. I follow someone who takes amazing, huge, massive landscape photos, mountains, ice, whatever, and they always put themselves in them, like looking this big over on that hill. And I'm like, why are you doing that? But that's their thing, you know? If it works, I like it when it makes sense, if it adds to the image in my mind. This case, this is the Milwaukee Art Museum that I had earlier. This was a photographer I was out with that day. And it kind of looked cool. His long shadow in there. It was a gray day, so the sky was like crap, you know, make it black and white high key, not a problem. But the shape, this is a 17 millimeter wide shot. The shape of that building is unique, and that's, you know, helped emphasize that. This is another spot in the city that I like to go to. It's cool during certain times of day. You can kind of see a little bit where the shadows come between the columns. Um, at certain times of day, it's really black and white almost when you're standing there. This image might work without the people. It might be a optical illusion without the people, but that girl right there and her red hair, oh my God. Like that's just luck, right? She just was there and I was there and it just worked. And her standing in the sun like that, it was just like the perfect moment. So be aware of that. I mean, when you're in the city, there's people all over. You can't get away from that. So sometimes you have to include people in your photos, whether you want to or not. But it doesn't mean you have to just include them because they're there. You could be patient and wait for the right moment. You know, maybe the person will come in the frame or out of the frame or in the shadow or into the light. Um, and it gives a sense of scale to your architecture. It also might inform people where you are, if you're in the city or if you're somewhere rural, how they're dressed. All those things can play into a sense of place. Another one, I took a bunch of pictures of this staircase. It's the at the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra building. They added a new addition to an old Art Deco building, and there's this really cool spiral staircase there. All of the images I took didn't have people in them except this one. And I thought it just, she added something to this image. I also used like topaz texture effects and made it, you know, sparkly or whatever. The purple and green stuff wasn't, it didn't really, that's not really there, but it worked for me in this image. And her going down the stairs just added a point of interest. This one, I stood there, I walked up. Immediately, I saw the light on front of this girl, um, and her long shadow, and that's what I focused on. And that was my shot, her in the long shadow. When I uploaded this image when I got home, I was like, "What is going on here? This is like kind of weird." She has this really great light, great long shadow, but these other people have shadows come in the opposite direction. I'm like, well, I didn't notice that at the time. But because of the light on the reflected light on the building coming the other way, it made the shadows from the other people there intersect with hers, which is not normal. You know, it's not something that is usually happening when you have light. It's usually from one source and you're not getting shadows in different directions. So that made this a little bit of a unique aspect to this shot. And the bean is one of those places where you can include architecture. The bean, I don't, is art. I wouldn't, I don't know if you consider the bean architectural, but it's a great reflective service, huge reflective surface to use to get abstracts and try to find different ways to shoot the buildings that are around it that get reflected in it. But this came from being patient and just standing there and kind of waiting for a moment. And she stood there and I was just like, "Oop, that was it for me." Architecture is everywhere. This one, I get it, right? Big cities have great architecture. It's all modern or old, great buildings or Gothic, and but there's architecture everywhere. There's rural bridges. There's buildings. Buildings are architecture. They might not be by Frank Lloyd Wright or Frank Gehry or whoever, but they're still architecture. There's still interesting aspects to them. This image is from my parents' hometown in Butte, North Dakota. Population, I think at the time I took this was probably like 38. It's a one street town. There's nothing left in it. I think the Legion Hall's still open. There's a post office that still operates, and the school is closed. The grain elevator is closed. Like that's it. But there's still architecture there. It's still there. Whoops. That is an old one of the buildings on one of my family's farm properties. Someone in our family's farm property. Again, it's still architectural. We you kind of got to open up your mind, be like, okay, just because I'm in the middle of nowhere, North Dakota, doesn't mean there's not architecture here. This is a grain bin. I went down about 2 hours south of here to meet up with a photography friend of mine, and we he knew of this building, and he from the outside he always wanted to stop there, and he shoots models and stuff, and he thought this would be kind of a cool background. But we got there and opened the door, and was like, oh my God, look at all those lines, look at the shadows, this is crazy. It was so insane. um Again, it's a farm building, but it's architecture, it's shapes, it's lights, it's shadows. Obviously we were there just the right time for the light to do that. But if you don't think that there's architecture out in the middle of a field somewhere because there's a barn there, then you're going to miss it. This is between Brownsville and Austin. I was driving from Brownsville to Austin, and I was going north, and I saw this on the left side of the highway, and I couldn't turn around. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to stop there on the way back. And I did. And it's like this amazing abandoned theater. And I can't think of the name of the town. It starts with an R, I think. Anyway, again, it's really tiny town in somewhere Texas, and it's just an interesting architectural piece. It's history. This theater is falling apart. Um, how am I doing here? Time. Almost. Okay. Think about time. Doing things differently means thinking about time of day and weather. Obviously, anytime you shoot something, go back, it's never going to be the same. Shooting at night, it's not going to be the same. You'll get different results. Different results of the Chicago River when at night. Different results in Berlin. This looks completely different during the daytime when it's not lit up. It's just different ways to create different ways of seeing architecture. I'm going to cruise through some of the rest of this because some of it I include usually and some of it I don't. So other ways to make your architecture look unique or different is processing, or this is shooting intentional camera movement. So this would be moving my camera while I was, oh, whoops, scary, while I was shooting, which I've been playing with a lot because it gives you interesting results. Same thing, moving the camera this is a stairway sculpture in Berlin. These are multiple exposures in my hometown. It's still architecture, but it's doing something that makes it a different way of seeing the architecture and making it maybe more artful. Maybe this building on the left, it's just a bank building. Maybe it's not that great, but when you do that, it kind of adds some more interest to it. These are not architectural, but they turned out architecturally. They're intentional camera movement, and they're the blinds on the windows in my office. But to me, they became architectural because of the lines and how the shapes came out. This is me going, what happens if I do that? Or what if I do this? And you either get lucky or you start learning how to deliberately move a certain way. that you know what kind of results you're going to get. I'm going to skip the black and white and color part. That was, I mean, I can cruise through these if you guys want to see the images. Somebody specifically asked for that during a presentation one time. Black and white hides things a lot. Uh, there's a orange construction sign in there. The garbage can sticks out a little bit. Um, it makes sometimes more interesting or more graphic. This one, I prefer the color in because that building particularly is being remodeled and that color was controversial when it was built. These are the story is the orange doors, but then in the middle, I made it black and white and it was more about being the spiral staircase. So those are choices you can make too. And like anything with post-processing, I'm not going to bother with those. High key, low key, same building. That's the Aqua building. Same woman architect. That was it. um, Again, another quote. It's not it's whether you see or don't see. It's whether you take the time. We can all learn how to process images, but it's how you organize what you see. It's how you tell the story to get your viewer to see what you want them to see.
Let me just start with myself.
Where am
Oh,
I? Hold
go
on.
ahead.
Hold on. I'm just like trying to figure out where I'm at. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, on that last page. So, do you want to mention the photo tours? I just saw something
Oh
really.
yeah. See,
What
this
kind
is
of do?
yeah, because I'm horrible at that.
Let me do it
I
for
do. So no, it's fine.
you. Okay.
I do. And I said before, I used to mentor. I've kind of pushing stuff in a different direction with what I do.
Mhm.
But I am going to continue doing, I do private tours in Chicago. I would look at other cities depending on where they are and if I know them well. But I love doing private tours in Chicago. I love being able to take people and go, you know, they'll be like walking down the Riverwalk and I'll point something in out and they just be like, oh my God, I didn't even notice that. So it's fun to take people. And I've taken one guy came here because he was looking for street photography locations. I'm not a street photographer, but I know the places to go
Yeah,
for what they do. I know the good light places and the good, so um, those kind of things I do for private tours. So they range from an hour to 4 days, typically, depending on what somebody's here for and wants to do.
that's wonderful. So that kind of got me a little excited. I've only been to Chicago just I don't know, maybe twice, maybe three times. I can't recall. And Chicago was never really high on my list. I'm like, let's go to San Francisco or let's go to New York. And after I went to Chicago, I don't even think of those other places as much. My friend Susan's in here going, "You need to think about San Francisco," because she lives on that side of
San
she
Francisco's
lives on
awesome
that side
too.
of the world. But Chicago, I was not at all interested in architecture until I went to Chicago, and that is all. I spent a whole day wandering around taking photos of buildings, bricks,
Right.
all this stuff that is not of interest to me. And go as you're flipping through your photos, and I'm thinking, God, why don't I see that naturally? So you actually have inspired me. And then I mean, I can't promise I'll be in Chicago anytime soon, but
Well, if you did,
would love,
let me know. I mean,
yeah,
seriously, let me know.
I
I
will.
love meeting people and
I
taking them
would
around
love
downtown.
that sounds wonderful. So let me flip here. I'm going to share this chat with you because there are some really nice comments in here about your presentation and your photos, but I'm not seeing any questions that I missed. Somebody did. It was right when you were talking about the building where you look straight up and it was the reflection on the column. And I believe you said you don't have an articulating screen on your camera.
No,
And so
no.
you either set your camera down but you basically braced yourself up against that column to get that shot. Is that right?
Right. So if this is the column,
Hmm.
um, and like this is the camera. So if this is the lens, this back, I'm going like this up against the column with my camera.
There you
In
go.
the column, I might have been able to look up at my screen because it's a tall column and I could have put my camera up here and still looked up at
Yeah.
it. So that one might not have been blind, you
That's
know.
okay. That's all right. Um, Oh, well, all right. I want to thank you for coming and sharing the cities that you've wandered. I love that you're a traveler because that's one of my favorite things to do is travel. And I think that's what really inspires me to pull out my camera is when I'm traveling. I want to capture all of those things
Right.
that we're supposed to take pictures of, and then to give yourself that grace of or that gift of time to go and play with your camera. And so I got really I've got travel envy at the moment. So
I have not been anywhere for 2 years, so I'm like struggling
I'm
big
kind of
time.
I'm in the same
Big
boat.
time.
I'm in the same boat as you are at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lori, it was really nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. It was great
And
to meet everybody, and thank you all for coming too. I appreciate everybody being here.
yeah. All right, let me wrap this up, but if
Yep.
you hang on for just a second,
Yep.
come back in the room. All right. Next week, Brad Smith will be here to share his presentation, The Art of Standing in the Right Places. And until next time, go out and create something beautiful. And I hope that we see you again soon.